UFC 320 is finally here. We're a couple of days away from it going down during the weekend. Ankalaev versus Pereira for the main event, the rematch. Can Pereira change up his game plan and improve and regain his belt, or is Ankalaev going to give us a way more better performance than Izzy versus Pereira and their rematch in the UFC? So these are questions we love to find out during the weekend. That's why MMA fans love the UFC. Seeing these, anything could happen. Any fighter could win any possible way. So yeah, I'm super excited for this whole card. The whole card actually is kind of like, for 2025 standards, it's actually kind of stacked. I would have to rate it like a 8.5, maybe a 9, maybe. But yeah, I do have timestamps for each fight, so if you want to skip through, go ahead. But yeah, I am going to start off the early prelims, the very first fight of the card, with women's flyweight Hardy versus Walker. Now, I'm going to be honest, I do not know much about Hardy or Walker. I only know Hardy. She changed her name because she married that one dude. I forgot that dude, but he was also a fighter and his last name was Hardy. But anyways, all I know is Hardy and Walker have a similar opponent, and Hardy beat that opponent, and that opponent beat Walker. That's all I remember seeing from their resumes or fights or whatever. So I'm just going to go with Hardy, especially this minus 700. So I guess they also looked at that and like, there's not too much to think about this. But yeah, that's how I got. I got Hardy. So this is, she beat the fighter beat Walker. I don't know. Don't break your head trying to actually try to figure out women's WMA. But anyways, second fight of the early prelims, welterweight Brahimaj versus Vanderford. Brahimaj, he's a good grappler. He's actually pretty decent. He kind of did get out wrestled by Themba and McGee, but he is pretty good. He has, his striking was kind of bad when he first started, but he did improve his striking. Nothing too crazy, but he is kind of decent. And Vanderford, he had actually a pretty good, decent run in the Bellator scene where he was wrestling guys, laying and praying, but then he started to get chained like twice in a row. He got a fight in the LFA against a can, and then he got signed to the UFC and got a decent win. And so, Vanderford is looking actually pretty impressive. But I'm going to be honest, I feel like Brahimaj is going to be able to defend Vanderford's wrestling. If Vanderford does get Brahimaj down, I feel like Brahimaj is able to... Brahimaj is a better wrestler, actually. I feel like the whole fight is going to be like a 3-rounder wrestling match. But Brahimaj is going to be able to be the better scrambler. He's going to be the better wrestler. And I feel like he's going to win just by control time being on top more. So I feel like there's going to be a wrestling match. And I got the underdog, Brahimaj, beating Vanderford via wrestling, via control time. So decision win. That's what I got. Or maybe he does chin Vanderford with ground and pound. Maybe he does do that. Maybe. But yeah, I got Brahimaj winning decision. Or maybe he ground and pound wins third round. But yeah. Next fight, we got Soriano. Is he Hawaiian? Because he does have a very Hawaiian first name. But anyways, Soriano versus Veretennikov. Soriano, he fought at middleweight. Was kind of having a mid-career middleweight. Then he came down to welterweight and is in a 2-fight winning streak. Pretty impressive wins. But yeah, welterweight does seem to be his actual weight class. Doing pretty good. He has a pretty good height guard. His physical attributes allows him to have a decent high guard. Just like Ilya, Ilya has a high guard, and he's able to do it with how his body's built. But yeah, he is a southpaw. He does have a decent cross, left hand cross, and he does kind of loop a lot from distance. He doesn't really jab. He just throws power punches, but he is still decent at welterweight. He's kind of big, I guess. And Veretennikov, he only has one win in the UFC, to be honest. He's been losing a lot. He kind of doesn't move a lot, his head. And for that, he does struggle. I feel like he's going to struggle with Soriano. I feel like Soriano is going to be able to batter up Veretennikov for 3 rounds and then probably finish him in the 3rd round. But I do got Soriano just being the more faster, explosive fighter. Veretennikov is kind of flat-footed. Maybe can Veretennikov out-wrestle Soriano, but I don't know. I generally do feel like Veretennikov is going to want to strike mainly, and then he's going to get hurt pretty badly. So I got Soriano winning this finish decision. I got a decision. But yeah. Next up on the early prelims, Petromix versus Wiklacz. Petromix, you know, he had that embarrassing loss against Mario Bautista. But, you know, let's be honest, in the Bellator scene, his striking was always garbage. I don't know why people said Petromix was decent or was going to be a champ at the UFC. His footwork, his striking, it was so bad. He only had that knee that he got that kind of fluky KO in the Bellator scene. And he only spams that knee. And like on the feet, and then on the ground, he is a pretty good grappler. But the thing is, he's not a good wrestler. And what happens is usually when he goes to the ground, it's usually the opponent takes him down. Petromix doesn't really take guys down. They take him down. And then that's when he starts doing his work and gets the submission wins. So yeah, and then we got Wiklacz, something like that. I don't know. I'm being honest. I don't speak Polish. Surprisingly, I don't speak. Anyways. He's making his debut. If you see his regional fight scenes, his striking is not amazing. I mean, it's kind of decent. It's kind of mid. But he is a wrestler or grappler, most likely. You can tell that the way he likes to fight is just wrestling. And I wouldn't say he's an amazing wrestling. He kind of doesn't really dominate people in the wrestling. So, yeah. If they strike, I feel like Mix is going to improve from his last performance. You know, he's going to want to improve his striking. And I feel like because he's going to want to improve his striking, I feel like it's going to be a competitive fight on the feet. A very low level striking match, but it's going to be competitive. And then I feel like Wiklacz is going to take Petromix down, and that's when he's going to get subbed. I feel like Wiklacz is going to be dumb enough to actually take down Petromix, and Petromix is going to submit him probably second round. That's what I see. Second round submission for Petromix. Women's bantamweight, Chiasson versus Santos. Chiasson, she looks like your typical Starbucks employee, and Santos is Russian with a Brazilian or Hispanic last name. So I'm guessing she married a Hispanic or a Brazilian. I got Santos. I got Chiasson because she's huge. Look at her. She's 5'11". She's my height. She's huge. Oh my! Even though she's been losing some of her fights, I don't know. It's whatever. I don't care. If I get this wrong, who cares? I got Chiasson. Now for the prelims, the first fight, Santos versus Yu. Santos, if you see how he fights, he kind of he also looks like a mini Charles Oliveira. You know, he has decent. He's well rounded. He has some Muay Thai. He's been inactive for a little bit, but then he came back and got a decent win against a Korean dude. And there's another Korean dude, so I'm guessing Yu is taking revenge for his fallen Korean brother who lost to Santos. And yeah, I don't remember Yu. I think he was the guy that KO'd some dude. Like he made his debut his one fight ago, and he dropped the dude with like a left pull back hook or something like that. He dropped in, crazy finish. But the thing is, that dude he also got chinned by Jubilee, and like that doesn't really say much. That doesn't really say if Ju is actually that good or not, you know. But anyways, you might as well put like a crippled blind opponent in front of you, and he would have had a similar performance. Because that dude, how do you get chinned by Jubilee? I don't get it. How do you get chinned by him? But anyways, I feel like Santos. I don't know. If you see Yu, he's kind of. If you see his regional fights, Yu is not anything to write home about. He's not amazing, and he did fight at like. I don't know what he fought at. But I don't know. I just don't rate Yu. There's not much to know about him except for that quick finish over a guy who's got chinned by Jubilee. And Santos is pretty decent. He's not bad. So I'm gonna go with Santos beating Yu. You know, he's gonna get 2 Korean wins in a row. And yeah, I got Santos. I don't know. Maybe finish second round submission. Right? Second round submission for Santos. I don't know. Next up is bantamweight Gutierrez versus Basharat. You know, we got the younger Basharat, the one that's undefeated. The other one got sent to the shadow realm. Anyways, Gutierrez, he has a lot of wins in the UFC, but they're all cans. And his best win is Frankie Edgar, and even that, because if you look at it, Frankie Edgar was like 40 something. He was like 40 and retired that fight. And so Gutierrez touched the rankings for a little bit because he beat an old man Edgar, and then he went on to lose to Sang Yadong, and then went on to fight more cans, and You know, he has a bunch of wins, but they're all cans, so I don't get it. Like, I don't know, something about this dude's resume is kind of weird. But yeah, you look at how he fights specifically. He is very, very boring. He is very, very safe. He does not put himself to danger at all throughout his fights. He circles a lot. He throws a jab, circles, kick, circles. He doesn't counter at all. Even like, if you're gonna be boring, at least be a counter fighter, like counter striker. Like at least be an Izzy, where if you go forward, if your opponent goes forward, you counter strike and make it somewhat interesting. But nope, he plays it too safe. Very boring to watch. I don't get it. But yeah, that's how he fights. And Basharat, he kind of fights similar, but I feel like he's more aggressive than Gutierrez. Basharat, they both have pillow punches, so maybe that's why they play very safe. But Basharat, at least he's more aggressive. He's more, he does seem to want to be able to finish his opponent. And he has some decent combinations, decent striking, decent grappling. He's well-rounded. I wouldn't really say he's an amazing grappler, like a dominant one. He does get takedowns, but he doesn't really stay on top. Like he's a good scrambler, but he doesn't have really top control as much. And a bunch of his opponents do scramble out of the from bottom position, and Basharat lets them go. So he kind of is like a Walmart Merab per se. But yeah, I do have Basharat beating Gutierrez because, like I said, both of them have pillow punches, and Basharat's more aggressive. So I feel like the judges are gonna favor Basharat just by visually, and Basharat, he's gonna at least want to finish his opponent. So I feel like he can go forward and not really get like scared of Gutierrez's pillow punches. So I got Basharat winning just by dominating control time, and landing a little bit like outpointing Gutierrez throughout the fight. So that's it. I got Basharat. Good win. Gutierrez, he was never a real ring fighter. He fought an old man Edward yeah, Basharat sure win. And yeah, middleweight, Shahbazyan versus Muniz. Shahbazyan, he kind of entered pretty young in the UFC, and he was not great. He was good. He did beat Tavares, but he was still very incomplete as a fighter. Like his striking was good, but it wasn't really there. His grappling was not there at all. He got all wrestled by, what's his name, Brunson. He got wrestled by Fluffy, but then he also got wrestled by Imavov and Hermanson. So it's like those guys are not even dominant wrestlers. So it's kind of like iffy to even get wrestled by those two. And then he was destroying GM3 and then got subbed by him. So his grappling has always been kind of iffy. But actually, his last fight against Prochazka, he improved a lot. You can tell he actually improved his anti-wrestling. He has good takedown defense now. He's starting to get more better striking. And what I'm guessing is Eren Shahbazyan is just basically, building his way into the UFC now. Like physically, mentally, he's starting to reach his prime. And so that's what I'm seeing from Shahbazyan. He's actually improving to a point where he's actually competent at a high level at the UFC. So yeah, and then Muniz, when he was coming up, he was a pretty dominant wrestler. He was taking down everybody. He was basically Hamza, a Brazilian Hamza. But then he got out wrestled by Brendan Allen and was competitive with Paul Craig. So he's not Hamza at all. Hamza would have destroyed those. He did destroy GM3. But anyways, Muniz does have a skill ceiling, a visible skill ceiling when it comes to his wrestling or his grappling in the middleweight division. And then he's been inactive and then went on to get chinned by Ikram earlier this year. So he's not looking too great right now, Muniz. So I feel like this is a great step up for Shahbazyan, where it's like a older fighter who's not as inactive, but stylistically is a nightmare matchup for Shahbazyan. But Shahbazyan has improved. He's now in his prime. Muniz is reaching he's already out of his prime physically. And so this is a guy who would have lost to Muniz a couple years ago, but this is, the narrative has shifted now. And there's a very winnable fight for Shahbazyan, and I have that. I have Shahbazyan having improved grappling to defend Muniz's takedowns. So very winnable fight for Shahbazyan, and I have him winning against Muniz. I feel like he's going to defend Muniz's takedowns, if not quickly get up and then chin Muniz. I feel like Shahbazyan he does have power, and he's going to chin Muniz third round. That's why I got Shahbazyan. Last fight of the prelims, Gutierrez versus Diaz. We got Ngannou 2.0. I mean, like visually, he kind of does look like Ngannou, and he's from Cameroon, but stylistically, he does not fight like Ngannou. Gautier actually has he has power for middleweight, but he actually has some decent, like, Muay Thai. Like, he actually has some versatile striking. You know, you rarely see that from, like, strikers that have power. Usually, like, power punchers are very simple. They only have, like, a 1-2 or, like, a very basic combination they rely on, like Pyfer and Ngannou. You know, their striking isn't too advanced. But Gutierrez actually has some decent striking, decent kickboxing. A crazy quick jab. It's a scary jab. You know, he landed quickly. I mean, he has the long reach, so he quickly lands that jab. And yeah, he's actually underratedly skilled, and you know, that was scary for someone like Diaz. Diaz has been dropped twice already by Pyfer, you know, another, you know, power puncher, and Ming Yang. And usually, though, he got trapped twice the exact same way, where he went forward, zero head movement, goes forward, and then the guy counters and he gets dropped. You know, Pyfer dropped him with a, I think it was like a left hook, and Ming Yang dropped him with an elbow. So, you know, that's because he had no head movement. He goes forward in a straight line and get countered. And I feel like Gautier is gonna look at that and is gonna have a really, really good chance of just killing Diaz in the fight. So I got Gautier. Basically, I don't know. You would be dumb to bet against Diaz. There's a better chance of, like, Dana White admitting power slap is not good than Ozzy Diaz beating Gautier. So there you go. Gautier, first round KO. First fight of the main card. Finally on the main card, Magomed versus Pyfer. Magomed, decently well-rounded. He is a good gatekeeper. Only lost to Sean Strickland, who went on to become champ, and Kyle Baralho, who isn't bad at all. But aside from that, he has really good wins. He has, Pereira and some other guys I forgot right now. But he is well-rounded. He is a good gatekeeper. I would say a harder matchup. I mean, he is a much more skilled fighter than Hermanson. And so this is going to be like Pyfer's biggest, hardest matchup. But the thing is, when you look at that Hermanson fight, it was basically Joe Pyfer not understanding that, underestimating Hermanson's chin and overestimating his ability to chin Hermanson quickly. And so what happens in a 5-rounder, that was his only 5-rounder. He gassed out. Hermanson has a good jab, starting to, use his skill and his cardio to beat Pyfer from the 3rd round to up to the 5th round. So it wasn't really Pyfer being unskilled or being trash or anything. It's just unexperienced and he got gassed. So I want to say Hermanson is, just because Pyfer lost to Hermanson, he's going to lose to Magomed. But this is a 3-rounder, so that very heavily favors Pyfer as well. So also Magomed, he did kind of mentally, give up against Sean Strickland, and then he got chinned or grounded pound KO'd by Sean Strickland. And Kyle was simply a dynamic striker. So yeah, Joe Pyfer has power. I feel like he's strong enough to defend Magomed's takedowns. I don't know. I don't see Magomed just out grappling Pyfer. Pyfer has decent grappling, decent wrestling, and I feel like after a while, Pyfer's gonna chin Magomed in the 3rd round. So I got 3rd round finish. I got a bunch of 3rd round finishes actually throughout this card. But yeah, I got Joe Pyfer. Josh Emmett versus Youssef Zalal. Emmett, good boxing. Obviously not as good as Ilya, but Ilya is one of the best strikers in general in the UFC. But anyways, Emmett, really good boxing, good takedowns. He does. He kind of only strikes, throws looping punches at range rather than uses jab to set up those punches. But it is still kind of effective. You did see him kill Bryce Mitchell. But yeah, Youssef Zalal, good wrestler, good grappler, good scrambler, really good on the ground. Decent striker. I feel like his striking actually improved a lot. If you see, his striking was looking pretty good against Kevin Cater. He kind of looked like a CKB kickboxer actually in that fight. If you see how he was fighting, he was very similar to a Nezi or an Olberg. How he was striking, it was kind of interesting. But anyways, Zalal does circle a lot, and he does circle a lot in a bunch of his fights. So you can't take it too you can't blames Zalal for circling in the third round against Cater a lot, because he does do that naturally in his fight. So it's not like Zalal was mentally giving up or anything. I don't think so. And yeah, so this is a 40-year-old Emmett versus a 29-year-old Zalal. Zalal is good and is becoming better. He's improving each fight easily, as you can see. And I feel like Emmett is not going to be able to reach Zalal. Zalal is going to be circling a lot, going to be picking up apart Emmett at range. And then if Emmett tries to wrestle, I feel like Zalal is going to be able to scramble on top and maybe submit Emmett. So I got Zalal submitting Emmett third round. Like I said, third round finish. He's going to submit in third round. So if this was a younger Emmett, maybe I got Emmett, but... And it's very possible an upset, Emmett does still have power, and Zalal, even though, like I said, he kickboxes, kickboxers don't have amazing head movement. So there's that, but I got Zalal being defensively safe, defensively responsible. So there you go. I got Zalal. Light heavyweight, the third fight of the card in the main event, and it's Jiri versus Khalil. Like, dang, that's a really good card. I can't wait for it. Anyways, Prochazka, he developed head movement at 32 years old. Crazy, right? He developed a head movement game at 32. Anyways, we got Samurai Spirit versus 33rd degree Masonry, and I got Samurai Spirit. Khalil's quick. Like, Khalil's best attribute at 205 is his speed. He's quicker than everybody at 205. That's how he beat Hill. That's how he beat Alex in the first 2 rounds, is his speed. But he slows down. And I feel like Yuri, the way he pressures, slows you down a lot. And, I don't know. I feel like Yuri is just way more better than Khalil. His striking, his awkwardness, his rhythm is just so unpredictable that someone like Khalil, who is very technical, very quick, it's gonna throw him off. It's gonna be like, oh, I can't. Khalil's quick, has really quick counters, really quick hooks. But when it comes to Yuri just entering range, Alex was able to find it in the second match. It took him 2 fights for Alex to adjust to Yuri's weirdness. Khalil's gonna have to face that in the first fight right now in a 3-rounder. Khalil could definitely win the first round, but I think Yuri is gonna be just too big and they're too fast, too weird to finish Khalil. I feel like Yuri's gonna finish Khalil in the 3rd round. Another 3rd round finish. I feel like there's gonna be a bunch of 3rd round finishes in this fight, in this whole card. Yuri's just so weird, very unorthodox, very switch stances throughout striking. He's just so weird. I don't get how his brain works. I just don't understand how any of it works. But I love it, and I am a little bit biased for Yuri as well. I'm not a big fan of people in Colts. I think Colts are kind of. I don't think anybody likes likes Colts in general, and Khalil is definitely in one. So I'm gonna go with Yuri. All right, Merab versus Sandhagen, second last fight of the card, a title fight. Let's get this out of the way. Merab is fighting Cory just because Merab finished all of his mandatories, which is Umar, Sean O'Malley. Yeah, there's nobody else Merab should be fighting, but Cory is there, so they gave him that. Cory, lost to Umar, who Merab destroyed. He didn't destroy, but he kind of embarrassed with his his entertainment style. Anyways, the way Cory was looking in the Umar fight, Cory, he had, he improved his takedown defense a lot. His scrambling was good, but the thing is, Umar had the double threat that kept Sandhagen from, just beating Umar. Umar was outspeeding Sandhagen, was just showing the takedown threat, and Sandhagen slowed down a lot. And Merab was gonna do a way more better performance than Umar. I can guarantee you. Like, Merab, we all know is this a 5-rounder? That has to be a 5-rounder. No, duh. That's a 5-rounder. So Cory's gonna have 5 rounds of Merab taking him down. I don't know how Cory's gonna beat Merab if he couldn't beat Umar. I don't see it. Like, I don't know what else you're supposed to take away from this. It's just, oh, Cory is technical in the feet. Merab is going to take him down. If Cory has good anti-wrestling, Merab is going to take him down. If Cory gets on top, Merab is going to resurface him and then take him down. If Cory lands a 1-2 on Merab is going to keep on pushing and take him down. So it's just the inevitable force versus a movable object. I don't know. Unstoppable force versus movable object, basically. And so Merab is going to take down Cory, take him down, and break him. Merab beat Umar. Umar beat Cory. MMA math doesn't work, but stylistically it does in this case. That's it. Umar beat Cory just for the takedowns, and just because Cory was scared of the takedowns, or was the only thing about takedowns, not scared. Umar beat him on the feet. Merab is gonna keep on taking him down, and probably beat Cory on the feet. There's a likelihood chance of that happening. But if Cory wins, I don't know how he could win. It's probably like just straight up finding like the perfect knee or something like that, while Merab is going for a takedown and just chinning him. But we've seen Merab inside and outside the cage take brutal hits. Like he literally survived a frozen leg hit to the head. So I don't know. Merab is gonna win. I don't see how Cory right now could beat Merab. Merab's 34, so he has slightly started to age out of his prime. But right now, 2025, Merab beats Cory. So I got Merab, 5-round decision, just by taking him down and keep on taking him down. On to the main event, Ankalaev versus Pereira. Now, if we're going to be honest, from what we've seen, Ankalaev beats Pereira in a rematch. Ankalaev did beat Pereira in the fight. He did beat him. Ankalaev has a stylistic matchup against Pereira. He does have the double threat. Ankalaev is, he is part of that region of the world where they're very dedicated to MMA. And Pereira, he's been seeing not focus on MMA. He's been doing a lot of side projects. He had that movie role. Pereira also already been there, done that in the UFC. He's a double champ, and he already achieved everything that he could achieve in the UFC. So maybe he's just taking this fight for another paycheck. He also talked about retiring. You don't remember where he threatened to retire. And also he probably wants to move up to heavyweight regardless if he loses or wins. So he's just seeing this fight as just let me get this over with fight, and moves up to heavyweight, or just straight up retires. So yeah, it's very obvious Ankalaev should kill Pereira in a rematch. This is also a instant rematch for Pereira and Ankalaev. We've seen what instant rematches go. The guy that loses in a worse way in the rematch. But the thing is, if you look closely into the fight, Ankalaev, the only reason he beat Pereira was because of the double threat takedown. That was the only reason he beat him, actually. Because in the first round, Pereira was landing the leg kicks. Ankalaev was hurting. You can see him, he was starting to limp. And then he went for the takedown, and Pereira stopped throwing the leg kicks. Ankalaev went for the takedown. Pereira started to slow down his striking, started to focus more on the takedowns. And he slowed down on speed, and he slowed down on punching, on striking count. So Ankalaev was able to just beat Pereira on the feet because of the double threat takedown. Now, also, when Ankalaev's biggest moment in their fight was when he dropped Pereira, or almost dropped him if the cage wasn't there. But the thing was, that wasn't Ankalaev setting up Pereira. That was Pereira switching stance and freezing, hesitating in front of Ankalaev. And Ankalaev, as a trained fighter, obviously took the initiative and took advantage of the very big mistake on Pereira's end. So it wasn't Ankalaev setting up Pereira for that punch. It's not like if Pereira didn't do that mistake, Pereira was never gonna get dropped like that in their first fight. So don't think Ankalaev is just straight up gonna KO Pereira, just being the better striker. No, it was takedown a threat, and it was Pereira making a big mistake in that moment. So, and then you start to add, Alex Pereira defended all of Ankalaev's takedowns. He defended all of them. And then can Ankalaev improve to take down Pereira, or is Pereira going to have even more better takedown defense and just going to be able? And he's secretly been training this whole time. These are things we don't know. But from what we've seen, it's not impossible for Pereira to improve. At the end of the day, it was a very close fight. It's also a very close fight from either Ankalaev or Pereira. Ankalaev, close fight, but I do think Ankalaev won. I do think majority of everybody, even including Pereira fans, think deep down Pereira did lose that fight. But regardless, it was a very good fight, and Pereira did win some rounds. He at least won 2 rounds out of the whole fight, at least 2. So very close fight. Pereira could win this, and the only thing that could go down is just because we don't know what's happening behind the scenes from either Ankalaev or Pereira. Pereira has shown what he wants to show. He's not an idiot. He's not just gonna be like showing his training, against Ankalaev, showing his improvements, his game plans, some switch stances. Even though technically last week or a couple days ago, he did show some training footage and he was switching stance. So Alex Pereira was switching stance. Which is, if you're an Alex Pereira fan, that is a very exciting or very scary thing, because Pereira isn't a master at switching stance. He's not Izzy. He's not TJ Dillashaw. So he is getting out of his element switching stance. But the thing is, Pereira is a kickboxer. So, if he's going to switch stance, I don't think he's going to be stupid enough to switch stance just to switch stance. He's going to actually be able to have the fight IQ to switch stance against Ankalaev and execute a good combination, a combination that him and his team have been looking at, that said, oh, this is going to work against Ankalaev, and you got to switch stance in order to execute this combination. So, like I said, there was moments where Pereira actually landed pretty nasty shots on Ankalaev. He lasted a nasty jab and nasty pullback counter. But I don't think Pereira was putting 100% effort. And so, usually you don't punch 100% effort. You punch around 70% in order to not gas yourself out. But I feel like Pereira was punching at 20% just for the takedown defense. And so it's a very smart Pereira game plan to have be very defensively responsible. Lose the first fight, lose it by close fight, just by being defensively responsible, and then in the second fight adjust and beat Ankalaev, because like I said, Ankalaev has a takedown threat. He took down John, and John took down Pereira, but Pereira improved a lot in his grappling and defended Ankalaev's takedowns. I talked a lot right now, and I'm starting getting to my point. Also, if we're gonna go in a bigger than this moment type of scenario, it was a good thing Pereira lost to Ankalaev. We're gonna be honest, because if Pereira beat Ankalaev, we were gonna have Pereira versus John at heavyweight, and Tom wouldn't have been champ, and the whole situation was gonna get worse. So that's actually a pretty good thing as well for Pereira to lose to Ankalaev. And right now, there's no reason for Pereira to lose to Ankalaev and for it to be a good thing. So, and also Pereira really hates Ankalaev if it isn't obvious. So maybe he uses that hate for fuel for his training camp, and he wasn't just just acting as a bad villain or doing whatever, hanging out with OnlyFans models, and getting getting accused of sexual assault. But anyways, Pereira, he should actually, I feel like he's gonna actually be humble enough, because he is humble. In a way, no human on earth is 100% humble. We all have our flaws, but I feel like Pereira is gonna be smart enough, humble enough to defend. To readjust his game plan and actually want to beat Ankalaev, rather than just be like, oh, that wasn't 100% myself, and just go out there thinking he's gonna win and get killed in the first round. So just because the way I've been trying to word this is, Pereira has a very good chance of beating Ankalaev. Ankalaev already beat Pereira. Usually he can improve as well, both of these fighters. But I feel like Pereira, the way he improved against Yuri, if you can improve against Yuri, his style and everything, I feel like you can improve against Ankalaev, who has a more on the books type of style. Ankalaev is more technical, so I feel like Pereira could use that technical advantage against Ankalaev and beat him. If Pereira trained with Izzy and trained those switch stances, I would have a much more higher confidence on Pereira beating Ankalaev. But he would, we don't know actually. A lot of the times none of this stuff is said, but I feel like Pereira, behind the scenes, I have confidence. I'm going to rely on Pereira beating Ankalaev. I'm going to have confidence on him actually adjusting and beating Ankalaev. So that's what I got. I got Pereira beating Ankalaev. Decision. I don't have him training Ankalaev at all, but I feel like I feel like there's gonna be another close fight, and it's gonna be very controversial, and people are gonna say, "Oh, Ankalaev beat Pereira," but I feel like this time around, Pereira's gonna have another close fight with Ankalaev. But I feel like he's gonna beat Ankalaev on the scorecards, 5-round decision, minimum win 3 rounds. I got Ankalaev. I got Pereira. He's gonna adjust, and that's what I got for the whole card for the main event. And yeah, Pereira, decision win. So that's how I got. Can't wait for this card. I'm gonna be excited. Hopefully I'm not busy and actually can watch these fights. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Those are my picks. Hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. Have a good day and goodbye.